Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Nicole. I am the Education and Volunteer Coordinator for the New York Marine Rescue Center. I have muted everybody's microphones for anyone who just joined. If you want to ask any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type your questions into the chat box as I go. Or if you want to save your questions until the end of the presentation, that's fine as well. I can unmute everyone's microphones and you can ask me that way. So for anyone that hasn't heard of the New York Marine Rescue Center before, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to protect and preserve the marine environment through conservation efforts, including rescue, rehabilitation, education, and research. And we run the only rescue and rehabilitation facility for seals and sea turtles in the state of New York. Together with other facilities spanning from Maine to Virginia, we are a part of a network called GARFO, or the Greater Atlantic Regional Fisheries Office. And together, we work to promote and provide marine conservation. One of the ways that we do that is, if we have an animal that is sick and injured and we don't have any more room in our hospital, we can contact another one of these organizations that might have room and be able to take the animals in, and vice versa. So being the only rescue and rehabilitation facility in New York, we do cover all of New York. So that includes from Montauk and Orient all the way into the city, Staten Island, and up the Hudson River as well. We are located in Riverhead, inside of the Long Island Aquarium. So you can see on the picture there, the red box is where our hospital facility is, and the aquarium is around us. This is what our current floor plan looks like. So we have, if you can see my arrow here, we have 16 tanks over here, which can house either seals or sea turtles, depending on what is needed. We have one tank over here, which if you've ever visited the Long Island Aquarium, you're able to see that holding tank from inside of our rescue center, inside of the aquarium. And then over here, we have 3 designated sea turtle tanks right here. And then within the facility, we have our treatment room and our labs, which are really important for the rehabilitation process. Now, in order for us to know if we have any, if there are any sick, injured, or healthy animals on the beach, we rely heavily on the public, local law enforcement, and Marine Patrol to call us on our rescue hotline to let us know that these animals are there. Now, if you don't have our rescue hotline number, it's at the bottom of the screen here. It'll be on the slides throughout the presentation, so please, if you don't have it, feel free to take it down, put it in your phone. It's a really important number to have. This is the only number for the state to call if there's a sick or injured marine mammal or sea turtle on the beach. So when we bring an animal back to the rescue hospital, we will start the rehabilitation process. Our biologists will conduct an initial physical, which includes taking weight, drawing blood, measuring temperature, assessing body condition, administering fluids, and treating any wounds. The animals in the photos here at the very top is a Loggerhead Sea Turtle named Anchor, who was undergoing surgery to remove a fish hook. The one on the bottom left is a small Kemp's Ridley sea turtle that is undergoing a cold stun assessment, which we'll go into a little bit further later on in the presentation. And then the bottom right is a Loggerhead Sea Turtle named Crush, who is getting a physical because he had injuries from being entangled. Now, our ultimate goal whenever we bring an animal into rehab is to be able to release them back into their natural habitat. To ensure that they are recovered completely from their conditions, our staff will conduct a release physical on all the animals, and if they are no longer in need of care, then they can safely return back to their natural habitat. Our releases are usually generally open to the public. They usually happen at Tiana Beach and Hampton Bays, and it's something that we will put on our social media. However, right now during this time of social distancing, we're not doing any public releases, but we will be posting videos of any releases on our social medias for you guys to see. If you look really closely in the photos on here, you can actually see that these two sea turtles have satellite tags on them. And satellite tags are part of the research that we do here at the New York Marine Rescue Center. We conduct many research projects to promote conservation of the animals that we rescue as well as their environment. We analyze samples collected during rehabilitation to track diseases that may affect populations. Now, the turtle in this photo is Anchor, who's a Loggerhead Sea Turtle, and he is getting his satellite tag attached to the shell. And the satellite tags are a really great way for us to get information after they've been released on their behavior and their movements. So you can see in the map on the right-hand side where he was released, which was right over here. And then you can see as the colors go where he was. So he did stay in the area for a while. It's not uncommon for sea turtles once we release them in the summertime to kind of stay in our area for a bit. They do use our area as a foraging ground. Now, unfortunately, we are not able to satellite tag all of the animals that come into our care that we release as much as we would like to. Each satellite tag costs somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. So it's, like I said, as much as we would like to satellite tag all of them, unfortunately we aren't able to. However, last year, thanks to the kind support of Canon USA Inc. and Manhattanville College, we were able to satellite tag 5 sea turtles. If you go on our website at www.nymarinerescue.org, you can actually see where those sea turtles went after they were released, and there is still one sea turtle whose tag is still actively tracking, so you can see where he is right now. Another large part of our mission is to educate students, teachers, and members of the public on how they can help protect and preserve the marine environment. We do this through our various education programs, and lectures like this Cold Stun Sea Turtle lecture is one of the many presentations that we give. We can do hands-on activities such as our mock stranding program, which is the photo on the left. Our marine pollution lab gets kids actively participating and involved and learning about conservation, as well as our behind-the-scenes tours of our hospital. So now that you guys have learned a little bit more about the New York Marine Rescue Center, let's talk about turtles. Today we are here to discuss sea turtles and the largest cause of their stranding, which is cold stunning. But we're going to talk about the different species of sea turtles that we see in our local waters and the differences between sea turtles and semi-aquatic turtles. So on this slide here, there are sea turtles and there are semi-aquatic turtles. I'm going to ask you guys to participate, so if you can type in the chat if anyone knows any differences between sea turtles and semi-aquatic turtles. Okay, we have one, which is claws. Okay. All right, so we have claws versus flippers. So both sea turtles and semi-aquatic turtles do have claws. However, they're a little bit different. So sea turtles, which are the ones on the right side of your screen, they do have flippers that help them to more easily swim in the ocean, but they do have small claws, and depending on the species, they'll have 1 or 2 sets of claws on each of their front flippers. And I can show you, you can see it right here. So you can actually see this little piece right here that sticks out just a little bit, and that is where their claw is right there. Now it's very different from the semi-aquatic turtles because you can see here that the semi-aquatic turtles, instead of having flippers, they do have feet, webbed feet with claws, large long claws on the ends of each of their digits. Now another difference between them is that semi-aquatic turtles, as seen in this turtle right here, is actually able to pull their heads and their limbs into their shell. Sea turtles are not able to do that, so if you see this guy down in the corner here, him pulling his head into his shell, that's about as far as it's going to get. Another difference is that semi-aquatic turtles, by their name, are semi-aquatic, so they spend some of their time in the water as well as on land. And sea turtles, aside from the females coming up on the beach to lay their eggs, they spend all of their time in the water. So we have 4 different types of sea turtles that we see in New York waters. There are only 7 types of sea turtles in the world, so we get to see more than half of them. The one here is the Atlantic green sea turtle. They are the largest of the hard-shell sea turtles, and adults can reach lengths of up to 5 feet and weigh up to 500 pounds. They have a worldwide distribution. However, animals can be found in the Northwest Atlantic from Massachusetts down to Texas. Now you can tell these turtles from other sea turtles because they have that really pretty starburst pattern on their shell. However, the name green sea turtle doesn't come from the color of their shell, but it does come from what they eat. So Atlantic green sea turtles, as juveniles, they'll eat a mixture of crabs and clams and squid, seagrass and algae, but as they mature into adults, they become pretty much all vegetarian. Not strictly vegetarian, but it does make up the larger part of their diet where they're eating mostly seagrass and algae. And they will eat so much of it that the chlorophyll from the plants will actually turn the fat inside their bodies green. So that is where they get their name, the green sea turtle, from. Now sea turtles, none of the sea turtle species actually have teeth. However, the Atlantic green sea turtle has the closest jaw of what you would consider teeth. If you look really closely in this photo here, You can see that he's got a serrated jaw, which is very similar to like a butter knife, which helps them to cut through those leafy greens while they're eating them. We also have Loggerhead Sea Turtles. Loggerhead Sea Turtles can be identified by their reddish-brown coloring, and they get their name from their really thick head and neck. They have the largest head and the strongest jaws of all the sea turtle species. They can reach about 3 feet long and 300 to 350 pounds when they're full grown. And they have a very similar distribution to the green sea turtles. It is a worldwide distribution, but again, on our coast they can be seen from Massachusetts down to Texas. Loggerhead sea turtles can dive to depths of up to 764 feet. And they feed on crabs, crustaceans, squid, bivalves, jellyfish, and fish. Next is the Kemp's Ridley Sea Turtle. Kemp's Ridley Sea Turtles are the smallest of all the sea turtle species. When they're full grown, they get to be about 2 to 2.5 feet, 80 to 110 pounds. So even though they're the smallest, they still get to be a pretty good size. Aside from being the smallest, they are also the most critically endangered of all the sea turtle species. They pretty much nest on one beach in Rancho Nuevo, Mexico, and they do have kind of a secondary nesting ground on Padre Island in Texas. Now, we don't usually have sea turtles nesting here in New York. However, last year we did have the very first ever sea turtle recorded to nest on Long Island, and it was a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, and there were 96 little hatchlings that were released. And the final sea turtle that we see in our waters is the Leatherback Sea Turtle. Now, I said the green sea turtles are the largest of the hard shell sea turtles. However, the Leatherback Sea Turtles are the largest of all of the sea turtles. Leatherback sea turtles are considered a soft shell sea turtle because they don't have that hard outer shell that the other sea turtles have. When they're full grown, they can be somewhere around 7 and 7.5 feet long and weigh up to 2,000 pounds when they're full grown. They get their name, the leatherback, from that black leathery skin that they have covering their body. And you can see they have ridges along their shell. So they have 7 going along the top and then 5 going along the bottom. Now, these turtles are the most pelagic of all the sea turtles. They are capable of diving up to 4,300 feet and primarily feed on jellyfish, salps, and other gelatinous species. They can eat anywhere between 300 and 400 pounds of jellyfish per day. Now, I'm willing to bet most of you have not seen the inside of a leatherback sea turtle's mouth. And so this is what it looks like. So they have these structures called papilla. You can see that they are keratin structures, which is made out of the same thing as your hair and your fingernails. These structures keep food from migrating back up the esophagus once they've tried to swallow it. So the esophageal papilla also protect the leatherback sea turtles from the stinging cells of the jellyfish. As you can imagine, the jellyfish don't go down without a fight. So these cartilaginous prongs keep the turtles from being injured by their prey. So if you were on the beach and you saw a sea turtle and you wanted to call in our hotline to let us know that there's a sea turtle on the beach, we will ask for a description. Sea turtles have an exoskeleton. Their carapace is their top shell, and their plastron is their bottom shell. So these descriptions are really important when describing a sea turtle to us. That way we can see what kind of animal that you're looking at, and how many people we might need to send, and what gear we might need to send to bring this animal into the hospital. So we see sea turtles coming into our hospital facilities for several different reasons. You can see the one on the left here was struck by a boat. This is a Loggerhead Sea Turtle. You can see those propeller marks there. We do see animals coming in that are entangled in rope and fishing line. The middle photo here is a Leatherback Sea Turtle that was entangled in rope and also caught around a lobster pot. And the one on the right is a Loggerhead Sea Turtle who has a hook that was hooked through its mouth. We do see sea turtles that are ingesting hooks, but also plastic that's in the environment as well. Now, today we are here to talk about cold stunning. Cold stunning is the largest reason that we see sea turtles coming into our facility. Cold stunning is the equivalent to hypothermia in sea turtles. And that starts to set in when the water reaches about 55 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll start seeing them, I mean, it depends on the water temperature, but we can start seeing them coming in as early as mid-October and going into late December, early January. So this graph here is the cold stun sea turtle stranding by species. We have data going from 1980 all the way up to 2019. So you can see that last year, 2019, was our largest cold stun sea turtle season on record. We responded to 85 sea turtles, and 33 of them survived, which is great. We still have 24 of them in our care. So we were able to release, well, we didn't release them, but we were able to arrange a transport. And some of the sea turtles that were doing really well in their rehabilitation, we were able to transport south. And so we bring them to the Baltimore Aquarium, and then from there they took them to Florida for an early release. Now this map here shows the cold stun trends and where we're really seeing them washing up on our beaches. So what happens to the sea turtles during this cold stunning process is once they their bodies reach a certain temperature, because they are reptiles, they can't control their own body temperature. They're not able to regulate it. So whatever the water temperature is around them is going to be what their body temperature is. So once they hit that 55 to 50 degree mark, their bodies will start to slow down. They won't be able to function properly. They'll lose mobility of their flippers. Their heart rates will start to slow down, and they'll just kind of float listlessly in the water until they wash up on a shore. So what happens is that the turtles, they're here in the summertime, and they're using the Sound and the Peconic and the Bay as foraging areas. And so these areas tend to be warmer than the ocean water. And so by the time they get the cues to start heading out and heading south to warmer weather, that ocean water is already too cold. And so they'll start heading out of the Sound and out of the Bay, and they'll hit that cold water and they'll become cold stunned, and so they're getting pushed back into the island by the currents. And so that's what we're seeing here, is that they're washing up on or becoming stranded on the north-facing beaches, mostly on the east end. So the north-facing beaches on the north shore as well as the south shore. That's not always the case. It's possible for them to strand anywhere. Last year we did have a sea turtle that washed up on the bay side of Fire Island. Oh, we got a question from Peyton. How do we know if they are cold stunned? So any sea turtle on the beach in the wintertime is likely to be a cold stunned sea turtle. We really don't see sea turtles on our beaches for any other reason. Now, if you're walking on the beach and you see a sea turtle, if it's cold stunned, it may not be moving, but it may still be alive. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in the upcoming slides. So once the sea turtles have been cold stunned, they wash up on the beach, and they're pretty much immobilized, and they, like I said, they can appear to no longer be alive. While they're sitting on the beaches, these animals can also get frostbite from the cold winter winds. You know, they're really exposed when they're on the beach. This sea turtle here, you can see, is flipped upside down, and their white, cream-colored plastron or bottom shell really blends in well with the sand, so it's actually very easy to walk right past them and not even notice that they're there. Same goes for this turtle. So this is a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle who was cold stunned on the beach, and so that dark color is getting washed up with the high tide line, with all the seaweed and the rack line, and it's really easy for them to blend in. So if you were walking the beach in the wintertime helping us to look for these turtles, you have to look really carefully because they can be mixed all in that stuff there. Now, sea turtles, aside from being cold stunned, they can be stranding with other issues as well. Some of them have damage from scavengers picking at them while they've been on the beach. Again, they can have the frostbite affecting their eyes and their skin. Some animals have human interaction cases. We do have a Loggerhead sea turtle currently in our care who was a cold stunned sea turtle struck by a boat and was also entangled in fishing line when it came in, but she's doing great. Now we can be bringing in animals, more than one animal at a time, but they all need their individual care. This year we brought in 10 sea turtles in one day, and it was we had 1 week during this cold stun season where we brought in 10 sea turtles one day and then 7 the next and 5 the next. So we were really seeing those sea turtles coming in really rapidly. So we have to be able to care for all of them as they come in. So these 3 sea turtles here, you have a green sea turtle on the left and then 2 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles on the right. And you can see that each one of them has their own thermometer here. It's really important for us to keep track of their body temperature. So when we're bringing them in, we do have to warm them up, but we're warming them up very, very slowly. So if they are warmed up too quickly, then it can throw their bodies into shock and really do a lot of harm to them. So we are always monitoring their body temperature to make sure that it's not increasing too rapidly. So when they come in, we will do a full assessment on them and class them from class 1 to class 4. Class 1 sea turtles are the most responsive sea turtles. We do different touches, which we're going to go into in the next slide, to get them to start responding to us. Like I said, Class 1, they'll be responding, they'll have strong head lifts, they're breathing on their own, and these guys have a really great recovery rate. And the Class 2 sea turtles, they have a much weaker response to the touches, but they are still responding. They're still breathing on their own. And at this point, they still have a pretty good recovery rate. Now, the Class 3s, they have really, really weak, maybe no responses to the touch test. There's minimal movement. If there is movement, it's typically jerky or uncontrolled, and kind of very slight head lifts. And unfortunately, the success rate of their rehabilitation does start to decrease at this point. And then Class 4s for the sea turtles coming in, they're pretty much a limp animal. They're not responding to any of our touches. We don't see any kind of head lift. And it does start to get extremely hard to successfully rehabilitate these animals. However, it is possible. So the assessment consists of a lot of different touches. So the nose touch, so sea turtles, believe it or not, the tip of their nose is actually soft tissue, which is very sensitive. So if you touch their nose, we are looking for them to kind of recoil their head back from us. The eye touch is what you can see in the top left photo. So we're not actually touching their actual eye, but just kind of at the corner. We're looking for them to blink their eye, move their head, any kind of reaction from that at all. The flipper resistance, we are looking, we'll manipulate their flippers back and forth, and we are looking for them to kind of pull their flippers back away from us. The tail response, their tail is very sensitive. They really don't like when people touch their tail or anyone touches their tail. So they'll usually take their hind flippers and kind of slap them closed, or I should say slap them together so that you're not able to touch their tail. So any kind of hind flipper movement is something that we're looking for in the tail response. The cloacal temperature is the internal body temperature, and that will help to correlate the responses that we are looking at from the touches and the assessments. And then the breathing rate is the respiratory rate, and that will help us to determine what class to put them in as well. Now I do have a few videos here. So this one is of the eye test, or the eye touch. And I'm going to play this a few times. It's pretty quick. And so you'll see that she touches the corner of the eye and that the sea turtle just kind of blinks here. You know, it's tough to see in this video. I'm going to play it again. And you can see this turtle is flat out, not really moving too much. However, when she touches his eye, he does blink. So that is the eye touch. Now the next video is definitely a lot easier to see. This is the flipper resistance assessment. So again, we're manipulating the flippers back and forth, trying to get them to pull their flippers away from us. I'll play that one more time. Now, one of the first things that we do when the sea turtles come in is we will listen for their heartbeat. There are two different ways that we do this. So the first is with the Fetal Doppler, which is the small one on the left side here. So you can see it here and here. So this one gets ultrasound gel put on it, and then the probe goes between the neck and the shoulder area. Their shell is too thick for us to hear their heartbeat through, so that's where we do it right through their neck and their shoulder right there. It's easy to hear the heartbeat or find the heartbeat in a Class 1 or Class 2 sea turtle. However, it can be very difficult in a Class 3 or Class 4 sea turtle. An average heart rate for a sea turtle is somewhere between 25 and 35 beats per minute, and we have had sea turtles come in that have had a heart rate as low as 1 beat per minute. So it does get extremely difficult to hear when it's that slow and that low. So we can use the ultrasound machine, which is in this picture here. And so instead of trying to hear the heartbeat, we can actually see the heartbeat as flashes of color on the screen instead. So the next slide is a video of the sea turtle's heartbeat. I'll play that one more time. So that heartbeat is definitely slower than an average heart rate of a sea turtle. However, it's still a strong heart rate and very present there. Oftentimes when animals come in and they're not breathing regularly on their own, assistance is required. So this animal here is a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle that needed to be intubated so that our biologist can provide breathing assistance to them. Once the animals are brought back to the hospital, our biologists quickly begin to start the necessary steps to help return the animal's body temperature back to normal. Now, like I said earlier, we can't just immediately warm them up to their normal temperature. We do have to do it very, very slowly. They're warmed over a course of 5 days, and we're raising their body temperature somewhere between 2 and 2.5 degrees Celsius per day. So now the warming process will begin by placing the turtles in areas of the hospital that is just slightly warmer than their body temperature. Again, like I said, we don't want them to get too warm too quickly. So they'll start in one of the rooms that is the coldest and then kind of work their way into getting into warmer and warmer areas of the hospital. Once the sea turtles become responsive and they begin to show strong head lifts, we can introduce them to water. So we will introduce them to a tub with just very shallow water where their shell is still on the bottom. They don't have to worry about trying to swim, but that they're getting reacclimated to water. This is a green sea turtle. This is his first introduction back to the water, and so he is moving his flippers a little bit. You see that nice strong head lift that he did there. Now, as these cold stun animals progress, we are monitoring them for strong head lifts. A head lift is the motion associated with each breath that a turtle takes. As turtles breathe air, they have to tilt their head backwards to about 90 degrees to allow their nose to clear the water. And head lifts are often associated with flipper movement, and flipper movement also stimulates a head lift. So it's for this reason that when an animal is showing strong head lifts, that we will start to move them into another tub with shallow water. However, it's just a little bit deeper than the first. You can see their first interaction with a little bit more water where their flippers aren't necessarily touching the bottom is a little more uncoordinated. This turtle, you can see, I'll play again, at the beginning starts to swim backwards instead of forwards. And then quickly gets the hang of it and starts moving forward again. Now, once the turtles have spent some time in this tank here and they're getting more acclimated and they're comfortable, we will introduce them to the tank, which you can see their entry is also a little bit uncoordinated. Now, we do wait for them to take a breath before we'll let them go. That way that we know that they've had a nice, good breath. So they do that hopping motion. It takes them a little while to get reacclimated back to the water. We do have our biologists on the side making sure that they're not really bumping into the walls too much and that they don't hurt themselves. Now that does usually subside rather quickly, and then they can start swimming around like a normal sea turtle. Now, this video here is actually of some of our Atlantic green sea turtle patients that are currently in our hospital. So there are 9 of them in this tank here, and you can see that they are enjoying some zoodles, which are zucchini noodles. Now, if you're interested, I am going to be actually going live today on our Facebook page at 4 o'clock to talk a little bit more about these guys, so feel free to tune in then as well. So once these animals are ready to be released, we do tag them. So every animal gets flipper tags. They'll get flipper tags, which are those metal tags. It'll be on each of their hind flippers, which has an ID number on them, so that if they end up in another hospital facility, they can get a history of where they've been. Sea turtles also get a PIT tag, or a passive integrated transponder. It's very similar to the microchip that you would get injected into your dog or your cat at home. So while the flipper tags will eventually fall off, this PIT tag will stay with them forever. So anytime a sea turtle comes into the hospital, we do scan over their bodies with this scanner that is in the left photo here. There is a national database that we can look into if they do have one to see where they came from and what was happening with them when they were in rehab the last time. I did mention satellite tags earlier, so this would be what the satellite tag looks like when it is attached to the shell. Now these satellite tags will also eventually fall off. Sea turtles, as they grow, they do shed their scutes, which are those individual sections that you can see on their shell. So once those scutes start to shed, the tag will fall off. But we can get some really amazing data from these satellite tags, from how deep they're diving to where they're going and what bodies of water they're using after they're being released. Now there is another option of acoustic tags. Acoustic tags are great for getting data as well. They are a little more inexpensive than the satellite tags. However, with acoustic tags, there is also always the possibility that we won't get any data from it. And the reason for that is because the way acoustic tags are set up is that there are transponders along the coast, and unless the sea turtle swims close enough to one of those, we won't get any data. So if the sea turtle follows the coast close enough and they swim close enough to one of those transponders, we'll be able to get data from it. But unfortunately, if they just never end up swimming close enough to it, we won't get any information from that tag. So these are a couple of sea turtles that had a great story. They were here in our care. So this is Green Tea, who was an Atlantic green sea turtle who was rescued in November of 2017. This turtle was a Class 2 sea turtle, and its body temperature was only at 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Now a normal body temperature for a sea turtle is around 77 degrees. So he's definitely pretty cold. And when he came in, his heartbeat was only about 10 beats per minute, which again, a normal sea turtle's heart rate is about 25 to 35 beats per minute. So this sea turtle recovered really well, and we were able to have him transported to Florida for an early release in April of 2018. Now the next is Oreo. Oreo was a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle that was brought into the hospital in December of 2017. Again, a Class 2 cold-stun sea turtle. His body temperature was really low, was at 42 degrees, and his heartbeat was only at 1 beat per minute, but was successfully able to be released in August of 2018. Now Peppermint here is a Loggerhead Sea Turtle. Peppermint was a Christmas present for us. Came into the hospital on December 25th, and again was a Class 2 cold-stun sea turtle. Body temperature was extremely low at 38.6 degrees and 1 beat per minute for the heart rate, but made a great recovery and was able to be released in July. Now we did start a program for beach patrollers. It is our Cold Stun Beach Patroller program, and we are looking for members of the community to go out during the wintertime and help us look for these cold stun sea turtles on the beaches. Time is really important. They don't have a lot of time once they hit the beach to be recovered, and so us getting as many people out there as possible looking for them is really a great help. So we have 2 levels of beach patrollers. There's the general beach patroller team where you go out on any beach that's close to you at any time, and if you find a sea turtle, you're calling the hotline there. Or the rescue patroller program is a level up from the general patroller. At this point, you would have to take additional training, but this is for people who are interested in traveling to hotspot beaches and being on call. If we say, hey, you know, we're looking at the weather and the winds and the tides, and we think that it's likely that a sea turtle will be on the beach, or they'll start to be on the beaches in this area at this time, and kind of assign a beach for you to go and patrol. If you are interested in either one of these teams, I am going to put my email in the comment box. Please feel free to email me and let me know if you are interested in either the general patroller team or the rescue patroller team, and I will send you any of the information that you will need for that for the season that will come this fall. So I'm going to do that now. Okay. Okay. So if you were on the beach and you were looking for a sea turtle on the beach, where should you look? You're going to want to look at the entire beach from the rack line to the dune line and the water line. These sea turtles can be anywhere. These smaller sea turtles, they usually get pushed up with the high tide and deposited on the beach, so they can really be anywhere. And also the Loggerhead Sea Turtles, because they're heavier and they're a little bit bigger, they will sometimes get stuck in the water line and kind of get caught on the beach and not get deposited as far up on the beach as the other turtles. So you're really kind of looking everywhere. So if you were to find a sea turtle, you definitely want to make sure to call the 24-hour rescue hotline number immediately. So again, if you haven't taken the number down yet, please do so now. If you are not able to stay with the sea turtle until we get there, marking their location with a really obvious marker, whether it's, you know, you find a stick and you put it in the ground, or you mark a huge X on the beach for us to find. Like I said, the time that we spend looking for the turtle is really important, so the sooner that we can find it and the quicker that we can get it back to the hospital, the better. And you definitely don't want to attempt to warm the turtle up. Like I said, we have to do it very slowly so that we don't ultimately warm them up too quickly. So you definitely still want to either leave them on the beach or outside. You don't want to put them in your car or turn the heat on or anything like that. And then you definitely don't want to place the turtle back in the water. So they are afflicted by this cold stunning, and so putting them back in the water is not going to help them, and that will eliminate our chance to bring them back to the facility and help them to get better. So should you touch the animal, we always want you to call the hotline number first. However, if you see a sea turtle like this that's on its back, we do ask you to flip them over. The reason for that is because being on his back, it's preventing him from being able to do that head lift and take the breath that they need, but also their underside like this is really exposed to the cold, and so it can actually decrease their body temperature even quicker. So if you were to flip a turtle over or bring them further up on the beach if they were in the water line, the proper way to hold the turtle is with two hands kind of behind their front flippers. You want to make sure that you're not restricting their movement of their front flippers so that they can breathe on their own. So to sum it all up, you would want to patrol the entire beach from the dune line to the water line. If you find a sea turtle, you want to call the rescue hotline number. You don't want to warm them up, and you want to report your findings to us immediately. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I am going to turn the microphone back on so that I can answer any questions that you might have. Give me just a second. Okay, so I have unmuted everybody's microphones, so you are welcome to ask any questions that you might have.
Hi, Nicole. What are some of the hotspot beaches that you were talking about? Where are they located?
So the hotspot beaches are really kind of on the east end. On the north shore of the north-facing beaches on the north shore as well as the south shore. So we see them from Riverhead out to Orient, and then also in that Southampton area as well. But we see them as far as Montauk too. So it's really mostly the east end, but the north-facing beaches.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of sea turtles that we see. Bailey's Beach is a really popular one that we see sea turtles coming up on.
Hey, Nicole. You said last year was the first time that there was nesting on Long Island for the Kemp turtle. Do you know why?
We don't know why. Yeah, so it was the first time any sea turtle was ever recorded nesting in New York. There are a couple of theories out there. One of them being that with the warming ocean temperatures, that or the warming temperatures in general, the sand temperature is what actually determines the whether the hatchling will be male or female. So the warmer temperatures produce more females, and the colder temperatures produce more males. So there's a theory that it might be that they are trying to introduce more males into the population by moving further north. But at this point, it's just a theory, and we're not really sure why he was here.
Interesting. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I said before, I am going to go live on our Facebook so you can see our sea turtles that are currently in rehab. So feel free to join me then too. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. You too. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.